Hi, my name is Terry Lacey, and I'm hoping today to bring a message of encouragement and hope to those of you who are suffering from postpartum, know somebody who is going through postpartum, have been through it, or have a loved one, again, who is going through it. The Lord saw fit for me to go through postpartum with both of my children. Unfortunately, with my daughter, it was far worse than with my son, my second child. And I was actually going through postpartum in conjunction with breast cancer. I had the postpartum first and did not know that I had breast cancer at the time. And if I had to pick one to go through again, I would pick cancer. And I'm not diminishing the cancer journey by any stretch, because I really wouldn't want to go through either. But the emotional torment and suffering that I endured with postpartum was probably more painful of a thing to endure than cancer was. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, with cancer, there's a definitive diagnosis. There was a plan in place for me to get well. With postpartum, I didn't know what to do. It was like a downward slope that kept spiraling downward, and there wasn't a lot of support for me. I mean, I didn't even really know what was going on. And it's very difficult for family members and friends to understand if they've never been through it or experienced it for themselves. So one of the things that I would, if I could have it to do over again, that I would do is I would seek help sooner instead of trying to manage it on my own. Help was instrumental in bringing healing for me because it validated what I was going through, which we very much need. I believe the enemy keeps us in isolation during postpartum, which is adding fuel to the flames. Truly is. That's the worst thing that you can do. I was so bad when I went to see a psychiatrist, which it took a few different ones for me to really find one that I could really could help me. But they were talking about hospitalizing me. I mean, it was really, really severe. And nobody knew about it. In fact, when people see me, they always ask how I'm doing, and they're talking about my recovery from cancer. Nobody really knows the dark places that I went through and subsequently my family went through as a result of postpartum. I mean, it was a lot for our marriage to take. A lot. And luckily my husband was pretty amazing. I mean, not that he didn't get frustrated with me, but I was frustrated with myself. But he went to appointments with me and therapy with me. And one of the things I did or had while I was suffering with postpartum was scary thoughts. And my scary thoughts are what made me feel like I was like a sick person, like going insane. I would think horrible things, like images would just come into my head about my child, and I would be so scared. I remember going and seeing my therapist, and I thought that she would probably take my child from me if I told her some of the things that I was thinking. But somebody needed to know for my child's safety. Not that I felt like I was going to act out on it, but it freaked me out that I was having these scary thoughts. And when I told her, the comfort that I immediately felt was outstanding. It was like the enemy was trying to push these thoughts on me and make me feel so scared. Like worst case scenario is what you think is going to happen. And in fact, she told me the fact that you care enough about your child to risk the fact that you thought that maybe I would call Child Protective Services tells me that you love that child and that you would never do anything to hurt them. And I broke down and was just bawling my eyes out because that was exactly what I needed to hear. She told me that a lot of times if the thoughts scare you, that's a good thing. When people act on their scary thoughts, the thought isn't scary to them. And that's what's really frightening. That was a big comfort to me. So I hope that's a comfort to somebody else out there. This book right here, Prayers for Emotional Wholeness. This book was my lifeline. I'm going to open it up. You can see it's just real small paragraphs and prayers. And I would go to my closet at night and read these out loud, and just, even though they seemed so far away and healing seemed so far away, and I didn't know how long the journey would last. I think that's one of the biggest pains of postpartum depression, is just you don't know when the ending is, if there's going to be an ending, because it doesn't feel like there will be. Whereas with cancer, I knew my treatment plan was a year. Just hang on for a year. But the struggle with postpartum is the emotional torment is constant. It's constant. Like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I couldn't sleep, so I didn't even have reprieve at night when everybody else was sleeping. And I think that's why, if I had to choose, I would choose cancer again, because it helped me to know I had a plan. It helped me to know the suffering was going to end. Yeah, a long ways away, but at some point it was going to end. Whereas with postpartum, I had no idea. I didn't know if this was going to go on forever. And I've never been one to consider suicide, but I understood in those dark times why somebody would. I understood. I understood why they would. So the Lord was my strength. He was my healer. So many times my husband would come home from work and I'd be like, I need to go somewhere. I don't know where. I need to go to the emergency room. Somebody's got to do something. I'm going to go crazy. I've got to do something. And I just felt in the stillness of my heart my whole life I would run to doctors. I'll run to doctors. Doctors have the solution. And as you get older and wiser, sometimes you realize they're just people too, and they don't have the solution sometimes. And so what I would do in those dark moments is I would run to church. I would run to my pastor, just somebody. And although, they didn't know what to say a lot of times because I was a mess, pretty much. Just them being there and listening was so helpful. And praying for me, the power of prayer was, it can't be understated. And I'm sure you're wondering, did you ever see the end of it? For those of you who are like, yes, I feel that way, I understand. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. There is hope on the other side. I went to church one night, and the pastor stood up. They were in the middle of worship, and he came and interrupted worship. And he said, I'm feeling somebody out there is suffering greatly with this anxiety, and their anxiety came on me. And he began to describe me to a T. And I know that God works and heals many at once, so I know there were other people at that service who, he was talking about, but to me, God had pointed me out. And I went down front and I received prayer, and I knew that night I was delivered. Now, did I all of a sudden, it wasn't instantaneous. My depression, anxiety was gone. Whoop, I was all better. Things were good. That's not how it happened for me. I had to walk it out and believe that I had received that healing that night and continue in my journey. I continued to take my medications and to do the things that I needed to do. But I knew immediately that I had been free, that I was free that night. And it probably took 2 or 3 months, but every day I got a little better and a little better and a little better and a little better and a little better. Until I do not suffer at all from anxiety or depression, which is something I did suffer with before, which is why I think it triggered it for me especially hard after my children were born. But I can tell you there is freedom in Christ and in Christ alone. He truly came and touched me, and he met me in the dark places of my closet every night when I would read this book and when I would cry out to him for help. This is by Stormy Ormishan. Great book. Anyways, I hope this was of help and encouragement to you. I hope you know it is a season and you will get better, and this is not the end. Don't isolate. Don't keep this to yourself. Involve your spouse or the people who live with you, and let me tell you, what you're feeling is real. And it's not just go out and get some sunlight and take a few deep breaths. I get it. That's not what it is. But there is hope. And so I will be praying for you, and I hope this was helpful. God bless.